Tonight at 10, scientists around the world express optimism following successful early trials of a vaccine against coronavirus. The vaccine developed by the pharma giant Pfizer and its partner BioNTech has been tested on tens of thousands of people, with no safety concerns being raised so far.
Must be true then.
I feel that we're on the cusp of one of the biggest medical advances for society and mankind in the 100 years that have passed.
We believe you. Thousands wouldn't.
The Prime Minister and his advisors were keen to add.
There's the bullshitter. What's that guy doing in army fatigues for? A fucking war or something?
The vaccine passes all the rigorous safety checks and is proved to be effective, then we will begin a UK-wide NHS-led programme of vaccine distribution.
God, that's bad.
We'll be asking how likely it is that a vaccine might be available by the end of the year, as we report on continuing pressure on the NHS. We visit a hospital trust in Derby where nearly 600 staff are currently off sick or self-isolating because of coronavirus.
Bloody hell, there can't be any nurses left.
In America, President-elect Biden appoints a coronavirus task force and strikes a notably different tone to the president.
Blah, 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 more bullshit.
Please, I implore you, wear a mask.
Same
Do it for
face,
yourself. Do it for
same
your
side.
neighbor. A mask is not a political statement.
And a quarter century after the UK's landmark disability rights legislation, many young people tell us that they still can't lead independent lives.
In the Midlands, inspired by serial killers, a fan of horror films is found guilty of a brutal murder. And 82 years on, Coventry remembers Kristallnacht, when Nazis destroyed Jewish shops and synagogues.
Good evening. The world's leading scientists have expressed their delight, along with a strong note of caution, following the news that a vaccine against coronavirus has proved 90% effective in early results. The vaccine, developed by pharma giant Pfizer and its partner BioNTech, has been tested on 43,500 people in 6 countries, with no safety concerns being raised so far.
Really? How do you know that?
Deputy Chief Medical Officer Jonathan Van Tam said he was hopeful that the first vaccine might be available by Christmas, and there would be a much better horizon, in his words, by next spring. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that one significant hurdle had been cleared, but there were several more to go. And some experts were keen to point out that this announcement was made on the basis of very early analysis, with the vaccine not yet formally approved. Our medical editor Fergus Walker.
There you go, very early analysis. There's your get out clause if you're the government.
This is a huge day for science and perhaps the world. For the first time, a COVID-19 vaccine has
They look
been
like
shown
bleeding
to
e-cigarette
protect
liquid.
against the disease. Plenty of caution is needed, but the preliminary results of the Pfizer.
There you go, plenty of caution, so queue up for it, won't you?
There were more than
You probably will.
1,000 volunteers on the trial, which began in July. Half got the coronavirus vaccine. Half a dozen.
Well, let's see what the half that got it are like in 10 years' time.
94 of the volunteers fell ill with COVID-19, nearly all in the non-vaccinated group. As a result, Pfizer says the vaccine is more than 90% effective.
It's such a great day for science and humanity. You know, I've never felt professionally such a moment of joy, and we were just jumping up and down in the chair.
Of course you were. Must have had a gun fucking out to his head or something.
To put an end to this dreadful pandemic.
The vaccine uses a tiny amount of the genetic sequence of the spike protein which sits on the surface of coronavirus. Synthetic material known as RNA is injected into muscle cells in the arm. This stimulates the creation of antibodies, Y-shaped proteins, which should bind on to coronavirus, preventing future infections.
Should bind on.
Killer T cells are also produced. These should identify and destroy cells which have become infected. Scientists around the world have moved at an extraordinary pace to develop coronavirus vaccines. There are 47 in human trials. The UK government has advance orders for 6 of them, including 40 million doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine.
I wonder how much that costs a dose.
20 million people.
Someone's making a fortune, isn't they?
Pfizer says by the end of the year, 50 million doses will be available globally, but only a minority will come here to the UK. The government also ordered 100 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. We're still awaiting their results. It's thought around 4 million doses will be available here by the end of the year. At the number 10 press briefing,
Here he is, lying git.
Of a significant
I made the fucking SAS here.
against COVID.
The bleed now has he got them fucking camouflage stuff on for? He's not going into a bleeding war.
Scientific breakthrough. I'm certain of that.
But the Prime Minister said there were several hurdles to clear before the vaccine could be used, and he urged people.
Wonder
not
whether
to
he's going to have the
slacken their
vaccine.
resolve.
No chance.
We cannot let our enthusiasm tonight run away with us, folks. I'm very, very
Our
sorry
enthusiasm.
to say this. It's
Well, ain't
more
fucking mine enthusiasm, is it?
now that we follow the basics, that we wait and see whether this vaccine.
Oh, Boris, professional liar.
We continue with the measures we have in place.
And many scientists agree that we can't be sure yet if this vaccine is a game changer.
These are very early results. What we really need to wait for is the longer-term follow-up of all these participants in the trial to understand how effective this vaccine is, say, 4 to 6 months after receiving the doses.
It's not very
Pfizer
long.
applied
It's
for
a matter of
emergency
weeks.
Authorization for the vaccine. If regulators give approval, the first doses could be used here before Christmas. A small first step towards ending the pandemic.
And Fergus is with me. Lots of talk about optimistic theories based on the results, and of course lots of talk about being careful and caution. Where's the balance for you, Fergus?
Well, it's a rare moment, Hugh, that I've been able to sit here throughout this pandemic and give you some really good news, and that's one of those occasions. These results really are very promising indeed, and they augur well for other coronavirus vaccines that have used the same approach, this spike protein, to build immunity. But the results, though promising, are very early. What I need to know is, does the vaccine, we know it stops people from getting symptoms and falling ill, but does it go further? Does it stop all infection completely, including asymptomatic infection? That would be
I very much doubt it.
Building up what we call herd immunity. And we also don't know
Fucking herd
how long
immunity.
any immunity will last. We may need to have booster vaccines, and we don't have the crucial safety data.
Given all of those conditions that you just mentioned, what does the path ahead look like in the next few months?
Well, if it's approved, and that's a big if, we might get a few million doses of this vaccine before the...
So you got this magical vaccine, and you might not even get it approved.
First in line would be older residents of care homes and
Yeah, that's it. Kill them off first.
and then the over 80s and frontline health workers, and then progressively younger people. We shouldn't expect this vaccine to change the way we live this winter. We're not out of the woods yet, but we might finally have found the right...
You were never in the bleeding woods.
Back once again. Fergus Walsh, our medical editor there, with the latest thoughts on today's news. And for some more reaction, let's talk about the financial markets, because they climbed following today's announcement by Pfizer. In London, the 100 share index closed almost 5% higher, with similar increases across Europe. Among the companies to benefit were airlines and hotels and travel companies, which have been hit hard by the pandemic. Our business editor, Simon Jack, is in central London. So, Simon, to what extent was the talk of caution in Downing Street reflected on the financial markets?
Not really at all, Hugh. I think that caution was not the word. Euphoria. We saw some incredible moves in share prices today. The parent company of British Airways...
Incredible news in share prices. I'll sleep well tonight then.
26%, EasyJet up 33%. Incredible moves. But remember, these are some of the stocks that have been battered the most on the way down by the virus. The market, as you said, on the whole was up 5%. And that was because there were some losers, the so-called stay-at-home stocks that have thrived during lockdowns. Things like, for example, every office worker's new best friend, Zoom, that was down 15%, and Ocado, the online delivery company, down 9%. But overall, the point is this is about sentiment. Markets just need to believe that tomorrow is going to be a little bit better than today, and that today's news delivered a syringe full of that kind of optimism. They know that this
A
is
syringe
not
full.
but the point
There's
is,
that word
it's
again.
a bull. That is
It's
the
what you put the
market is focused
vaccine
on.
in a
Before
syringe.
long, they'll have something else to
It's
worry
all
about.
predictive
Today,
programming.
Euphoria, a very significant day in the financial markets.
Simon, many thanks again. Simon Jack there with the latest on what's happened on the financial markets today. Well, while the possibility of a new vaccine can give people hope, of course, the immediate pressures on the NHS are still with us. With many wards already full, health unions say staff are complaining of feeling exhausted by this second wave. Department of Health says it
I'm gonna
is
stop
committed
bleeding
to giving
dancing
the
then.
NHS in England the resources it needs. Our health editor Hugh Pym and camera operator Harriet Bradshaw have been to the University Hospitals of Derby and Burton NHS Trust, where nearly 600 staff are currently off sick or self-isolating because of coronavirus.
Everyone's kind of on edge at the moment, like wondering, is it going to get to that level again?
The general state of exhaustion and burnout is still there.
There are some people that it's come as a shock to them, almost like they've been to war.
They tell these people what to say when they go in there, by the way. Oh, look, there's a fox and a deer.
Through the first wave, and now they're facing the second.
The predator and the prey.
Kelly Ann is a nurse in the intensive care unit at Royal Derby Hospital. She says they're feeling the strain.
It's scary for us.
Well, she would, because she don't want to lose a job, does she?
I think we're all still kind of running on adrenaline at this point. Even like looking back at the last wave feels a bit like a dream or a nightmare.
Doesn't look very busy there to me.
It will be a struggle.
The atmosphere here is calm. Staff are simply getting on with their jobs as professionally as ever.
Oh, shut up, you tarty. Don't half bleeding annoy me. This Hugh Pym. He's like a nodding dog.
Caroline is the
Should call him
sister in
Churchill.
charge of the intensive care unit. This section for COVID patients is nearly full. How do you feel personally?
I'm ready and willing, but I'm very tired.
This is some serious shit propaganda, this is, people. By the BBC, British Brainwashing Corporation.
We have a lot of sickness due to either burnout or just that they're...
Fucking hell, you think it's zombie apocalypse or something, wouldn't you?
Dawn is one of their intensive care patients.
Yep, she's so ill she can even get filmed by the BBC and do an interview.
How serious COVID is.
At first, you think, oh, you're going to be okay. But then, as things progress, you can't breathe. Quite frightening. Frightening for family. My husband is absolutely devastated. It's just floored me. Yeah. So,
You sure you ain't got the flu?
it can't happen to anybody.
And they told you you're going to die?
Another patient's condition has changed suddenly.
Yeah, of course it has, you lying bastards.
Greg, who's a consultant, is called over to help.
So this patient is just oxygenation levels have dropped a lot this morning, and the question is why has that happened?
4 members of staff at the trust, a healthcare assistant, 2 doctors and a cleaner lost their lives to COVID in the first wave. Memories of that are raw.
We very rarely are in a position where we have to look after somebody who's a colleague or a friend or an acquaintance. And when you do, you suddenly realise how mortal you are, because suddenly it's a personal thing.
Staff say they feel well supported by the trust. Hospital leaders are sympathetic.
It's hard, properly hard.
They say the workload is more intense than before as they're trying to keep all types of care going.
My anxiety is that it's going to be harder than it was in phase 1. We're fighting on multiple fronts.
Strange, because everything you look at on YouTube and Facebook, you've got nurses saying that hospitals are empty. And you go into the BBC and they're saying they're full. So who do you believe?
Back in a COVID ward, Mick has some good news for his wife. He's about to be discharged after nearly a week in hospital.
He done all right then, considering he was about to snuff it, and 7 days later he can walk home. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Stories like that are encouraging for staff.
I think you're being lied to.
There's a long road ahead.
we've done it before and we'll do it again. We just have to all support each other and get through it.
That's it, remember your words.
They're tired and often stressed, but they know people are relying on them and many others to keep the NHS going this winter. Hugh Pym, BBC News, Derby.
So let's have a look at the latest government figures then tonight, and there were 21,350 new coronavirus infections recorded in the latest 24-hour period. That means that the average number of new cases...
There you go, it's graph time. There you get a few seconds to look at.
1,487 people have been